up, y'all? What's up, gang? What's up, party people? Happy Thursday, folks. Shout out early gang. Shout out mega early gang. Sean, represent. Early gang got started like 2 seconds after I opened up the stream, or rather created the stream this afternoon. So shout out to Sean for kicking things off with the early squad, quite early. We got Charlie, John Goodwin popped in, F. Trevino, Nick Gundy. Oh yes, Nick, I imagine is not here because he did not catch up, so we do not want to be the ones to spoil for him. We got my queen, Alice. I saw the Stanleys pop in, I think. I'm scrolling. Julian, what's up? Hello. Team Honey, let's go. Daddy Josh, Brian Moore, Josh Bernard, let's go, team. Mike Hill, Dave, Ryan's here, let's go. Sorry, gotta get up early for work, but have a great stream. Question, do you think Chimere is the master or the apprentice? I think he's still the apprentice. I think there's a bigger bad that lured him in. Because where did he learn all that, you know? He was dunking on the Jedi. He certainly did not necessarily get all those skills from them. So that's my prediction. But thanks for popping in for just a little bit, Ryan. It's so good to see you. And thank you so much for sharing to spread the word that we are so close to 50K. I saw that Ryan and Sean were spreading the word on the Twitterverse. Much appreciated, y'all. Yeah, I checked the YouTube Studio app today and it refreshed at 49,000. I was like, oh, frick! Y'all, we are just 1K away. Although it's so funny, as soon as I made that community post, I lost like 10 subscribers. I was like, come on, y'all. Y'all are trying to just ruin my fun. It's all right, though. We will get there. We will get there. Brian Moore asks, question, how does Sol and Undara know that May started a fire? That's true. They were tied up when it happened. Fair point. How did they get those context clues? Hang on, we'll unpack that. But you're so right. I guess they had to assume. I guess that was kind of the crux of the Jedi's dilemmas, moral compass direction in this episode. They were operating on a lot of assumptions. JD Conti, what's up? Welcome. Lord Fowles popping in, gang's all here. Thanks for joining me, y'all, on this lovely Thursday afternoon. Hope you guys, or evening rather, for my East Coasters, and definitely evening for my not fellow Europeans, my Europeans. Blue Winter has joined. Hello. And Dave, thank you so much, my friend. Good to see you, and I really appreciate that. Everyone, what does Tommen from Game of Thrones and Torvin have in common? Two things. They offered themselves and were played by the same guy, Dean Charles Chapman. Yep. His resume definitely consists of characters who have taken that way out. He's got that going for him. But that is certainly something that I've seen a lot of people discussing on Twitter and unpacking there, you know. The insinuation as he takes the poison when offered from May and without question, you know, ends it. I've seen some people discuss, and I'm open to both sides of this because I feel a little bit mixed as well, you know, with that happening in episode 2. That happened pretty early on. So you assume like, okay, no questions asked. He takes this way out the second she offers it to him. They must have done something truly horrific that would warrant him, you know, accepting that immediately to take that way out. I'm trying to find words around how to describe, you know, that he offed himself without violating YouTube necessarily, because we're still early in the stream. So if it clocks that we're talking about dark topics, it might be like, hey, what are you chatting about? But I'm open to hearing what you all had to thought about that. I'm curious because I know that's kind of a little bit that's being highly debated right now online. I, at the time, really took that to mean that something truly horrific must have happened, but particularly to him, because why else would, you know, Indara and Sol seem to be operating just fine and were able to go back to, you know, their normal lives versus he self-induced his vow and never went back. So you had to assume that something truly tragic transpired for at least him on his personal journey on Brendok to warrant that. I think I was imagining something far worse, something far more scarring. He definitely was physically scarred, as we saw. But, I mean, he was also extremely, you could tell, they made it abundantly clear that he was the youngest and weakest in terms of his resolve in that group. So I can imagine, I can, understand. I don't know how young he's supposed to be, because it seems like he's like 13 going on 30. When we see him 16 years later, that's the other thing. He's aged horribly in his coma. He's balding, he's got gray hairs, like, and he's seemingly only, he's obviously still a Padawan. I interpreted him to be perhaps like Anakin's age. He at least had similar petulance that like Anakin had in like Attack of the Clones, questioning his master, questioning orders. He had that kind of teen moodiness going on to him. So I can understand and try to put myself in that position to reckon with a mistake in your, teen years, your young adulthood, that cost the lives of a buttload of innocent people. I can see that being drastic enough to really torture you. And especially since, it's clear, the whole theme of, not whole theme of this show, but one thing we've touched on that leads me to question more like what life truly was like in the Jedi Academy, Jedi Order. As Mother Anastasia points out, my daughters here at least have family. With you, they'll be living in an institution. And I went on a rant about how truthfully, Sol was so petrified by the Coven not necessarily treating the twins like children per se, but the Jedi Order really strips children of every quality that marks your childhood, particularly being raised with love and care and like somebody to lean on. Yes, they have their masters, but your Jedi Master isn't there to love you. And as Undara said, she's like, it's not my job to give him every answer. It's my job to mold him so that he can think for himself and replace me one day. Like, that's essentially how they operate. So I can imagine then to have something that tragic and horrific go down so early in your Jedi career, when you're literally still, I'm assuming he was a teen, or at least, maybe early 20s, young enough that maybe your prefrontal cortex isn't developed. Otherwise, I don't think he would have been thinking that way. But it was clear, the character Torben, was longing to go back to Coruscant, missed that sense of home. So that then for something that tragic to happen, and then, what happens when you do go home? Do the Jedi have counseling? Doubt it. And it's not like he can confide in anyone other than Indara, Sol, and Kelnaga, but I'm sure they all swore themselves to silence about it, to secrecy. It's a little bit like, this whole scenario has reminded me so much, and perhaps that's because I'm just so fixated with this series. I've talked to you guys about it before, the show Yellow Jackets on Showtime. It has a very similar vibe where you meet characters in their teenage years, and then like many years in the future when they're like middle-aged, in their 40s and 50s perhaps, and that something horrific transpired in their youth, but you don't yet see what it is, and you hear about from their older versions in the present. They're like sworn to secrecy. They never talk about it. They don't even necessarily, they all don't even see each other. They like went through this horrific thing as teenage girls, and then in their adulthood, like, they split off and don't even like associate with each other because they're reminded of what horrible things they had to do in their youth. The context is a girls' soccer team crashes in somewhere in Canada in the wilderness on their way to their state champion tournament, and you can imagine horrific things transpire as some of them have to survive. And you can piece together by who you see in the future, in the present, when they're, grown up and they're mothers themselves at that point. You can make context clues and draw conclusions like, all right, who survived and who didn't and what the frick happened in between. So it's similar vibes here with, I don't know, I'm just obsessed with that series. I'm so excited for the 3rd season. Holler at me if you are a fellow Yellow Jacket fan, but I'm getting similar vibes from this quad here of Sol, Kelnaka, Torben, and Indara. Of what happened, something bad went down in their past. And it's like, all right, you only see them in the future. How have they reckoned with it? And I wonder if it's a similar kind of dynamic where you can't look at each other necessarily the same anymore after trauma bonding over something like that. And you can't confide in each other and talk about it. God forbid it gets out or leaked. So I imagine Torben had no support system really following that. So I'm gonna read some chat here. I've gone on such a huge tangent and somehow brought Yellow Jackets into this. Julian, thank you so much for the super chat. I saw this like 5 minutes ago and went on my rant. Thank you for waiting. I'm so sorry. Why didn't Soul pick the girls up with the Force and bring them to him like they were 50 pounds each? Instead of supporting the bridge, I imagine there's more liability and risk. You could tell he was severely struggling. Severely. And this is coming from Soul, who they've made quite the effort to show that he's a boss. He is a certified badass and extremely strong, clearly, as a Jedi with the Force, you know, upon finding the absolute carnage and the, you know, casualties on Kofar. Vernestra and Mog, I think her apprentice's name is, their assumption immediately is like the only person in this group who could have done this is Soul. Like, it's known that he's extremely strong, but that's obviously in the future. We see this is 16 years in the past, so he's not even as fully fledged in his final form as we know him to be at this point. So he hasn't necessarily maybe even tapped into that strength, that just boss with the Force mode that we've seen from him. So my assumption is it's more of a liability to try to force, when you're already struggling, to try to then levitate both of them over the chasm. God forbid you flinch or fail, and then they both fall to their death. Like, to remove them from the bridge, the support, the platform, and then try to make them float, I think that that's more risky. If it were me, I don't want to presume what the logic was there, and I know that's something people have been complaining about, but I think that would have been more of a risk. God forbid they both fall to their death if you trip or if you start to lose it. You know, they made it abundantly clear that he was like struggling, using everything he had left, and still, of course, then ultimately had to make that terrible, awful choice. That's my interpretation. Mike Hill, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. Torben didn't do anything wrong that he would need to die. Yeah, I don't know. Only he can answer that. But I think also both himself and Kelnaka were the two who then clearly had fixations and obsessions. Those were the two who'd been, their minds were overtaken by the witches, and they were victims to that mind control and hypnosis kind of, and manipulation. Who's to say there wasn't kind of remnants of that, you know? Especially for the Jedi, who they were the ones who, you know, seemingly are probably up until that point believed only they possessed the power to, you know, be able to read minds or control people's minds or whatnot. So who knows if that had any sort of lingering mental toll on each of them. I think there must be something there, because if you look at, it's Torben and Kelnaka who clearly never got over it, never moved on, and they were the ones who were possessed. So I imagine that had something perhaps to do with it, just based on that clue alone, that the two of them seemed to take things way harder than Indara and Soul. Jaeger agrees and said, I thought that he'd maybe done something worse. I don't really see why he would feel guilty, or something that wasn't really his fault. Yeah, no, this is why I wanted to see what you guys thought, because I agree. I can try to piece together and understand why this would have driven him to then take that way out. He also knew, you know, that May was there to kill him anyway. So, like, even if he didn't, there might have been a dignity aspect of it as well, like atoning for that. And also accepting and knowing, like, well, even if I don't drink this, she's gonna slit my throat anyway, or like try to eliminate me, you know? Like, he knew probably that he had no option. Either she lets him take the easy way, or he faces a much more painful, you know, demise, I imagine. Causing the death of the witches and feeling weak-minded. Yeah, I feel like that's enough to make you question your, you know, resolve. I found no problem with it. He did look hella young. I agree. And, you know, that age, how kids are. So I was just like, kids. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that he was, if he's still a Padawan, I'm assuming that he's similar age to, like, Anakin in Attack of the Clones. Still young, clearly still reckless. How'd he block a lightsaber with one hand against a fully grown Wookiee while he was pinned against the wall? I think it's a sign that he was just very strong, also fighting for his freaking life. I think adrenaline can account for many things. I also am curious, Kilnaga in action was super wild. It was super great to see, and I'm glad, especially since, he'd been killed off screen. We don't necessarily get to see him fight or defend himself. But one thing I'm curious about is if that was even him at peak mode, because it was the witches who'd overtaken his mind. He clearly had no control, and they were the ones operating him. So I was like, how do they know how to fight combat? How are they even doing any of this? So perhaps that wasn't necessarily even him at peak fighting mode. Like, how would Kilnaka... I imagine he'd be even more of a boss fighting on his own autonomy without being controlled necessarily by witches who have never fought with a lightsaber before. But at the same, to that point though, he obviously was still in beast mode and it was horrific. So, curious if he was operating at peak capacity or if they were just taking advantage of his just brute strength, as the strongest one of the three of them there, Sol, Torben, and Kilnaka. Did he get the cuts on his face from Kilnaka? I think it was implied that his claw had gotten him. Did you get a chance to read the Leslie interview from Nerdist? Not yet, but I've heard that she makes some really great points, and I do want to check it out. What are some of your personal favorite TV shows of all time? Freaking Yellow Jackets, y'all. I cannot believe I'm saying that. Other than Star Wars related, I know, in spite of how it ended, Game of Thrones, Succession on HBO Max, and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime. That show is life-altering. It's so phenomenal. And Peaky Blinders. The Peaky Blinders. Peaky freaking Blinders, yes. Incredible series on Netflix. Brian Moore says, I'm hoping that they end it with Sol being the Sith who had his mind wiped. In episode 2, Kamir tells Sol not to wipe his mind. Pulling, from KOTOR would be cool. Oh god. If this all ends with Sol being a Sith, nah, I don't think. I'm beginning to think after this past episode that it's not going to go that route, but something tragic is in store for him. He doesn't confess to the higher council, so... It's clear that Torben was traumatized by what happened on Brendok. Yeah, I mean, everybody's trauma is different, for sure. I suspect Chimera is going to kill Vernestra, since she was probably his master and exiled him. We'll see. I don't know if she's that entrenched in it. Lord Fowl says, I noticed that everyone was confused by Torben's irrational behavior. I was like, oh, he's still feeling the effects of that spell. Oh, that's true too. You make a really good point, Lord Fowl. He got possessed pretty early on, and it's clear he was trying to center himself and meditate on that. But yeah, I can definitely imagine. One, you already want to freaking go bail and go back to Coruscant, and then you discover, oh, we're sharing this planet with witches who can take over my brain and control my thoughts and, possess my mind. No, thank you. So I feel like that would hasten my desire to get the frick out of there and go back to Coruscant. For sure. It's like, all right, now you're telling me I'm trapped here and we're sharing the planet with witches? No, thank you. I'm checking to see how far gone the chat is. Daniel Berry Sports, what's up? Which show are we talking about? Charlie, dang, you kept forgetting me hooked on that show as it was ending, but it's okay, there's a movie now. Oh, are we talking about Peaky Blinders? I hope there's still a movie coming out. Also, how could I forget? Another all-time epic show, freaking Avatar: The Last Airbender, animated version, of course. Another show that I was happy to get Charlie hooked on. Lost hyperspace. Hello. Why May keeps changing her goals. First, if you want to kill the Jedi without a weapon, then she changes her mind. Then she wants to save her sister. Then she tries to kill her sister. I think it's all suggesting. It points to how volatile she is. Um, but also, I think it's another. For both Osha and May, it's abundantly clear that they've had absolutely no autonomy or choice in their entire life. May, especially when we become privy now to what happens when Indara and Sol attempt to test her on their ship, and she's kind of just like a mouthpiece for Mother Anastasia, just sharing all these talking points like, well, mom says this, mom says XYZ, mom says this is my destiny, mom says that. She was very accepting of that. And you could see a little bit of uneasiness, when the Jedi are probing her about this and like, well, what do you think? She doesn't necessarily seem to be able to form a free thought for herself. She's kind of just repeating all of these talking points from Anastasia about their destiny and their purpose, and alluding to perhaps a sacrifice that they have to make, self-sacrifice. That was new. That was news to us, of course. So she was definitely leaning more into it versus Osha is rejecting it. But point is, they both never really have had a choice in their life. So Osha, we see that she's very clouded as well, very uneasy, doesn't know where her identity stands. And I think she's, in spite of thinking that she's not so susceptible to corruption as she, retorts to Chimere, like, I'm not that easily corrupted, as she can kind of sniff out his sob stories and whatnot, his tactics. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be so true. I mean, she freaking put on that helmet. I think there's no turning back, y'all. She put that thing on, it's over. So I think that's, her, recovering from, childhood of not necessarily having your path plotted out for you and then having no choice but to then join the Jedi Order and whatnot. She has this uneasiness about her and where she stands versus, I think, on the other side of that coin, May having no choice, similar situation. She, I think, is on the more like just volatile route, but has only ever done what she's, been told. And clearly was the star pupil of the coven, the favorite child for Anastasia, constantly, rewarding her, or rather Mother Coral. Mother Coral was the instigator. She really like rewarded when how strong May was with the force, or the thread as they referred to it. She was definitely more adept at it, more in tune with it, leaned into it, versus Coral would reprimand Osha for not even trying. So what we know about May from childhood is she's always been, she's received that praise for doing well, for being the strongest. To then lose everything, lose all of that, I could see her getting roped into then however her relationship began with Chimere, and wanting to similarly prove herself and be the best people she can be, but realizing it's interesting because she clearly wants to prove herself, but she was willing to cheat the system, cheat her way out of certain tasks, such as literally, asking Chimere to just help her out with Torben and concoct the poison to end it versus having to do the job herself. So I think her resolve is equally, a little bit weak. She wants to impress, she wants to prove herself, but is only willing to go so far to kind of do it, and Chimere says to Osha, your sister was always weak. So it's interesting. There are interesting sides of the coin, but that's my interpretation for May, that her motivations are constantly changing, because I don't think either she or Osha ever really know what they fully want. It's always been founded on what others have told them to do, or trying to live up to that expectation, that destiny. For May, trying to please Anastasia, trying to, be the best student, the better sister. So I think for her, that leans into a sense of volatility that she clearly clearly has, which for me, it makes her a freaking liability. It makes her dangerous in a sense that she can flip on a dime like that. I think that's the my takeaway, because I'm still curious about her intentions and motivations, but all I know is she's extremely volatile. Um, OT Money, thank you for asking this so I can address it. Speaking of Avatar, did you not upload the reactions of the rest of the Netflix series? You've caught me. I didn't. I stopped midway through. And I've divulged this to the members, but I'll just share it here with everyone. Because I was like, I don't know if I'll make a statement about it. I don't think it necessarily warrants one, but if I'm being truly, genuinely honest, I cannot bring myself to physically edit those reactions. It's so out of sight, out of mind for me now, and I think there was a lot more hype surrounding that show when it was airing, especially since it was on Netflix, and you could just binge it all at once, and so it really peaked right after the show came out, and everybody just ingested the whole thing within like a weekend or whatnot. So now my excitement has really dwindled about it, and I'm interpreting it as a sign that I perhaps didn't like the show as much as I thought I did at the time. If I can't bring myself to edit something, or if I have no excitement to edit a reaction, for example, like Acolyte episode 5, I was like freaking hang up, cut, and immediately started editing because I couldn't wait to share that because it was lit, in my opinion. I thought it was epic and I was super excited about it. Versus other episodes, if things are slower, then it's like, all right, harder to rewatch that episode back immediately and edit it if you don't necessarily have like super an astounding reaction or something like that. So I'm interpreting my lack of editing those Avatar episodes, finishing out my reactions for the live action series, as just a sign that I don't like it as much as I thought I did. And I think it's true because there's been times when Tom has gone to put an episode on, like just when we're eating dinner or something, and I just tell him like, no, I don't want to watch that. I think I can't beat around that bush. I'm excited and I'm glad that they got confirmed for both season 2 and 3, so they'll be able to finish out the story. But I'm debating, although they also changed showrunners, I think, following the conclusion of season 1, so I'll probably still react to it in the future. It was also extremely difficult because I'm used to the episodic format weekly, where I have a breather, between reactions, versus that was bam, 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 bam. I was kind of like a little bit overstimulated, overworked with that Netflix formula of, oh, I can watch everything all at once, but then, oh, that means I have to freaking edit everything all at once. And it kind of just piled up, and so I haven't, if there's real popular demand, people are really like, please finish those reactions, I'll do it. But that's the truth of it, and there's my explanation. So now everybody knows. Toby Parker says, I think Chimere has some connection to the witches. In episode 5, yes, Osha says that he could see into other people's minds just like her mother. I know, I'm curious what that answer will be, that reveal, because Chimere also seems to very much know. He's kind of weaponizing all of that baggage against Soul. He seems to be very privy to what Soul did on Brendock and the lies by omission that he's been committing, with Osha, to essentially leave her no choice but to see the Jedi as her, heroes. They've rescued her and, took her in. So, I'm curious where he stands in that, how May knows all of that too, because that's what I was waiting on. Hang on a sec. Yeah, I assumed that May had probably just told him everything. Granted, maybe he doesn't know the full extent of it other than what he's heard from May, and as far as May knows, Soul killed their mother. That's the biggest blow of all of that. So perhaps that's all Chimere seems to know about Soul, and I guess would then assume Soul never would have told that, would have confessed that to Osha, seeing as she became his Padawan. So maybe that's all he knows. Maybe he doesn't know the full extent of Soul wanted a Padawan and it was a cover-up and everything. I don't know. We'll see. where that goes. Bob of the Old Ways says May is actually very weak-willed, always doing what her leader says. When she tries to break away, she doesn't actually know what she wants. Osha is more strong-willed and self-directed. Couldn't have said it freaking better myself. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Randy Rodriguez. Sacrifice was something that Mother Anastasia had said in episode 3, but not in the context that May said it. She got confused. Oh, wait, frick. Oh my god, frick, you're so right. Oh, frick. So yeah, when little May goes and says to the Jedi, we have to sacrifice ourselves. And they're like, huh? What did you say? Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Randy. Holy crap. That makes it even worse. That she misinterpreted the words and didn't, repeat it necessarily in the same context that Anastasia had said when, having a heart-to-heart with the twins. Oh, frick. Dave, member for 17 months. Let's freaking go. Thank you so, so much. I'm an old school Star Wars fan. I'm watching The Acolyte. Don't know how they'll wrap it up in the last episode, but I'm not thrilled with the music and the end credits. I do agree. I liked the song. I liked it as a standalone song. Would listen to it again. As soon as the lyrics kicked in, it took me out of it a little bit. I was like, this has never happened in a Star Wars show before. I think it works really well. For example, in Game of Thrones or The Rings of Power, both of them are fantastical shows that had end credit music that was a song with like a vocalist and whatnot, but those fit the vibe, the universe, versus this feels like a modern song that you would listen to, not necessarily even in the context of Star Wars, So that's why it didn't work for me as well, and that's totally fair. And I think a lot of people share that, and I don't think that's a big critique by any means. Like, still a great song, jam. It just took me out a little bit. I was grateful that it was only, kept to the end credits, because if I were to hear a song, well, we do hear that, for example, in what I'm trying to say, Ahsoka, episode 1, when we meet Sabine, she's listening to like some heavy metal with like alien, lyrics, like it's clearly in a foreign language, but it's made for Star Wars because it belongs in that universe. Then it's fine. Then it's fitting. But like a modernized song, again, it was still really great, and I liked it. I was jamming, but it did take me out a little bit, but I think it's fine. End credit music was a little weird. Sounds like modern pop. Agreed. Eric Z asking, do women like the bad boys here? True or false? Anakin, Kylo, Chimere. I mean, I loved Anakin when I was 8 years old, so I guess it's true. I feel weird sounding off on any of like the, Chimere stuff in this show. As a married woman now. But I think it's clear there's a draw there, and I think Leslie knows exactly what she's doing. She's roping in the audience exactly the same way as, Osha, to the point that I feel like we're about to be majorly blindsided by something again with his character, or there's going to be another reveal or something, and everyone's going to be like, I was publicly thirsting for this man, and now he's awful. He already is. We saw him absolutely slay Jedi, brutalize them. So, that's where I stand with that. Are you looking forward to The Rings of Power Season 2? I am. If I'm going to be real with you guys, the thought crossed my mind today. I was like, I think I might just watch it in peace and maybe not film my reactions this time. I don't know. That sounds really weak, but if I'm being real, it took a toll on my enjoyment of the series when I reacted to it season 1 on the channel. The majority of comments were bad, bashing me, invalidating my fandom of the Tolkien universe and whatnot. God forbid I liked that show. It means I'm clearly a fake fan. So I don't know if I really want to put up with that again for the second season, because yes, I want to share my reactions, but I also feel like I deserve to enjoy the media that I love in peace. And knowing going into it that it's not going to be great, I don't really, I don't know. But then if Tom were here, he would say, don't do that, because then all the haters will win. And it's like, well, yeah, but I also don't want to deal with it. So, I don't know. Let me know. But that's freaking coming out soon. Isn't that the end of August? Rings of Power. What's still left on our docket for this year, y'all? We have Skeleton Crew, allegedly. Y'all know what I think about that show. August 29th is the Rings of Power. I feel like I'm missing something else. Let me know what else. There's the freaking Dune series coming out. Prophecy, is that what it's called? Which I believe has Travis Fimmel. I never actually watched that trailer because I kind of want to just go into the show super blind. It is Dune Prophecy. Okay, phew. But Travis Fimmel is the GOAT. Okay, he is in that show. So I think will be filming reactions to that. Oh my god, this cast is stacked. I'm definitely gonna react to that. When is that coming out? Release date? Fall. Alright, so that can mean anytime soon. And the Penguin show is coming out, so maybe I'll react to both of those, even though I'm not super familiar with the Penguin as a character, but that show looks like it's going to be really good, and I feel like anything on HBO you can just guarantee is going to be good quality, so still a lot on the docket for the latter half of this year. So it's like, I feel like I'd rather save my energy reacting to things that I am excited about. Not that I'm not excited for Rings of Power, but I kind of just don't. My videos inherently became a breeding ground for all the negativity, and it was just like, clearly I'm not listening to you. Clearly nothing you say in my comment section is going to sway my opinion. Save your breath. Save your precious carpal tunnel and go elsewhere. So especially after season 1, now that it's concluded and people do, I see eye to eye more with people, and I think it's more justified for people to have opinions after the show is wrapped. For example, you know, people were bashing the Acolyte before it even freaking premiered, so it's like, your opinion's already void from my perspective. If you're ripping apart a show that hasn't even come out yet, I'm not listening to you, because clearly you won't be convinced otherwise, and you haven't even given it a chance. Versus now, it's like, okay, now that the first season of Rings of Power has been out for quite a while, I can no longer, you know, deny people the opportunity to voice their opinion like that. But so yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll do a poll on the channel. I know if Tom were here, he'd say, shut the frick up and just react to it. He'd say, don't let them win. React to it. So maybe I'll do a poll and see. And yes, Cobra Kai, it's gonna be the final season, right? But isn't it getting split into like 3 parts? I can't stand this freaking Netflix model of shows. I'm gonna back it up a little bit. Baited asks, what would you rate the show? 1 to 10. For me, it's a 6 to 7. I don't mind it. That's fair. I don't know what I would rate it yet. I feel like, truthfully, I think I'm between. For Acolyte, I think I'm between like 7.5 and 8.5 realm. But again, finales can always change things, y'all, as we have learned. And one sentiment that I am seeing about, you know, it's like, all right, well, frick, how is this all gonna get wrapped up in just one episode? I think that would be my biggest critique. I like this show so much. I think the story is really great, but Tom made a really good point. Like, this 8-episode model, 8 episodes, less than an hour each, you know, it's really hard to watch. I don't mean this as a critique. This is coming from a place of begging. This is coming from, like, I am selfish and just greedy and just want more. So this is, don't let this seem like it's coming across from a bad place, because it's coming from a good selfish place. Like, please just give me more. Give me more. It's really hard to go and spend Sunday nights watching like an hour and 20 minutes worth of House of the Dragon. Like, you feel fulfilled and satisfied, and like those episodes can end on some major cliffhangers and major notes, but you still feel like you got a good dose of it because it was an hour long. Versus, you know, Acolyte, for something to be like 30 minutes and then end on a major cliffhanger, which was amazing. It's so much harder because it's like, I want more. Like, I wish these episodes were longer. You know, you'd have so much more room for, just please. That's, unfortunately, it seems like that's just the direction the Disney Plus shows are going in. I think Andor, though, was an exception. Those episodes would be like 45 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I'm not even asking for an hour and 20. You don't have to be popping those HBO numbers. Please just give me more than 30 minutes. That's all I ask. And I know that there's, you know, arguments of, well, quantity and duration does not equate to quality, which is super valid, because I've been one to make the argument, for example, that certain Clone Wars and Rebels episodes are the best things in all of Star Wars, and they're 25 minutes long with credits. So it's like, I would be the first to make the argument, like, we've seen Star Wars creators take a 20-minute runtime and deliver one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. So that's not necessarily even, it's not like it's a must, it's a necessity that everything Star Wars has to be an hour long. But from this show in particular, I just feel every week like, I wish it was longer. I wish we were getting more than 8, because then you get to this place where you're like, how the frick is this gonna wrap up? You know, I feel like we're poised at a point right now where this show could go on for a whole other, like, 10 episodes. Like, that's not an exaggeration. I feel like there could be a whole other arc in store here, but instead I'm feeling like, oh my god, how the flip? What's gonna happen? Anything could happen. And it's gonna happen, I imagine, in 40 minutes. So what's it gonna be? I'd say that would be my biggest qualm with the show. But again, I don't want that to be like a critique by any means. That's coming from a place of begging, from desperation, not from anger at all or anything like that. I'm so excited to see Sauron with long blonde hair. You and me both, Alice. I'm very excited for that. I've got your back. We've all got your back for that show. Stuff the negative Nancy. Thank you so much, Alice. I think I was saying this to Tom the other day, or rather yesterday, literally. You know, if there's one thing about having run this channel for as long as we have now, and really, I feel like I've truly grown up here, y'all. Like, I was what, freaking 19 when I started this channel? I was a kid, y'all. I was a child. Technically legal adult, but still so young in comparison to where I feel like I am now as a person. So I feel like I've grown up with you guys, and I love you guys, and I'm so grateful for that. So it's like, one thing that has, you know, been a blessing of this channel is you start to just develop a thicker skin, and nothing really bothers you after a certain point, except for the fact that there I was saying I want to just be able to watch Rings of Power in peace. So, like, I don't know how thick is my skin, but, you know, I was saying to Tom, like, shout out to Howard Stern, because that was like the final boss fight of public shaming / humiliation for being a nerd. So it's like, nothing can hurt me after that. You know, it's like, you can't touch me. Howard Stern, of all people, has roasted me to shreds publicly. It's like, it doesn't really get much worse than that. So that was like a great stepping stone in my career of learning to just develop a thicker skin. But one thing that is really hard, and has been hard for this show, Acolyte, has been hard for Rings of Power, is when it's like, people can say whatever they want to me, but when you guys in my comments voice something like, I love this show, or I loved this episode, like, you deserve to be able to say that safely. And people who clearly aren't part of a community here on this channel, who are clearly just searching for people to dunk on and roast and shit on, for lack of a better word, part of my French, you know, it's totally fair. I'm the one putting myself out there, like, for them to, okay, say whatever you want to me, but you guys deserve to be able to comment those things without then people trying to engage with you and saying, like, you're trash, you're an idiot, your opinion is so stupid, you're clearly not a real fan, which unfortunately has happened with this series, Acolyte, and with Rings of Power. So, like, that's another thing too. You know, say whatever you want to me, I'll probably just delete it. But when I see people engaging with you guys and you guys like fighting back and having to defend yourselves because you're champs, you're bosses. But that's what makes me sad because I feel then responsible for creating that like breeding ground for that. Um, so yeah, but then, you know, Tom makes the point like there's going to be a plethora of, you know, channels just ripping apart Rings of Power or ripping apart Acolyte. And for the people who want to watch something positive that resonates with them and how they like enjoy the show, how they're feeling, for people who like the media, they deserve a channel like this one where they can go and find relatable content, you know? So here I am talking myself off the ledge. Tom's like, Tom's not here, but clearly his voice still has sway over me. And so for, you know, for all of the hundreds of freaking, you know, comments on the Rings of Power videos that were just roasting the show, roasting me, all it took was one comment from someone just so innocently and genuinely saying like, thank you so much for this video, I love this show and it's so great to see somebody else who loves it. Are you kidding me? I'll cry. Like, that alone in a sea of hate and toxicity is enough to make you be like, frick it, frick all of that, I'm here for you. Even if you are the only person who watches this video, I will do this. We ride at dawn, ride or die. So I think I just fought my own argument there about whether or not to continue with those reactions. But the same with this show. It's like, you know, I know it has been disheartening making videos. Obviously I'm a fan of the show, unpaid. Disney check has not come through. You guys know. You know, God forbid you like Disney Star Wars anymore. You must be on a payroll because it's physically impossible to like this show without being paid. That was a joke. Where was I going with this? Totally lost my train of thought. Oh, to make positive content about this show because I genuinely like it, and then to see it not perform fabulously. And then, you know, Tom and I will scroll through YouTube in the evening and see videos like, this is trash, and it has 190,000 views, and it's like, well, frick. Like, that's disheartening as well. But even if we are the minority here on the internet, which I always say, the internet spaces and fandoms, I do not think are reflective of the actual majority of the fan base as a whole. If you talk to anybody who's not chronically online like the rest of us are, they have a much healthier more objective mindset. So you know, I think even if we're maybe the minority in the fandom of making positive content, people still deserve that place to come and watch, you know. But it's definitely disheartening to see it not go great, you know, on the other side of the other corner of this cursed website here of the YouTube. Daddy, thank you so much. Oh, rest in peace to Shelley Duvall. Here I am with the freaking Shining reference for your name. Such a tragic loss. She's like one of the highlights of my childhood. Her career, her performances. Sorry, your name and the Shining reference that we always have to use when we talk to you made me think of that. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. You're so incredibly generous. This channel and the community give me life. Stop. You're gonna make me cry. Art shouldn't be judged by the rules of entertainment. Art is so much more complex than the rules most people impose. So thank you for focusing on the artistry of it as it was intended. Danny, you're gonna make me cry. Thank you. Maria, welcome. Good to see you. Oh my gosh. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Yes, moderators can delete comments too, which thank goodness. Shout out to them, my mods. Y'all are god warriors, truly on the front lines. As I always say, 90% of the time when I go to check my comments, Charlie and Sean and everyone have already like banned some of them and hidden them, so that like rapid fire speed truly impresses me, and I'm so grateful. So y'all are doing the Lord's work, and definitely have had to step it up during this show and Rings of Power. So hold fast if we do approach season 2 and do some reactions. Um, Team Money, yes, we've got you. Yes, Team Money as well. Corey says, okay, ignore chat. If you're new here, there's one thing you should know about me. I go on freaking tangents. Do you think there needs to be a change of direction? I would not be the person to ask. What do I know about that? There's so much more to it than what I know. One thing I know is I've always had this stance when it comes to Star Wars, like it's such an expansive universe, and the state that we are in with it now, where, it's interesting. I think it's two sides of the same coin. I think some people want Star Wars, have that nostalgia about Star Wars, or you're either diehard, OG fan or prequel trilogy fan, and you to see it then become so expanded. Like, I think it's totally valid, I think, to feel resistance to see your favorite IP expand, and then perhaps, create media that you don't enjoy, but it's like, but this is my favorite thing in the world and I should be liking it right now. Like, that is totally valid. I'm on the other side of the coin where it's like, I think Star Wars is so expansive and it's a massive universe, and I want to see other people's interpretations of it. I want to see more cooks in that kitchen, telling their stories, sharing their interpretation of it, because not every director or writer is going to resonate with every single fan, unfortunately. That's just the crux of it. But for the people that they do resonate with, it's like good for them. And I just wish there's some really great creators that like, for example, I want to give shout out to like Star Wars Meg. I think she's so awesome because she has that mindset and openly expresses it. And I feel like more people should have a similar outlook as she does. If somebody, if she's not enjoying a show or whatever, she'll voice that, but she'll always say, like, I'm so happy for you if you are liking it, which is a healthy way to look at things. Like, like, that's a healthy mindset versus, unfortunately, we've seen with this show, other side of the spectrum is, I don't like this show and you're garbage if you do. It's like, all right, seek help. Seek anything other than being on the internet. So that said, I'm not the right person to ask, because I think we all have our own biases, and my bias is I think the more the merrier. I want to see what different people can bring to Star Wars. For example, look at what freaking Tony Gilroy has done with Andor. Like, give it to other people. I think he did he even profess himself that he's like not even like the biggest Star Wars fan in the world? Like, I don't even care at this point, but it's like, beautiful story from someone who I could be spreading misinformation. I'm not sure if that was confirmed or not, or if that was like a buzz surrounding that show, that like Tony Gilroy himself isn't necessarily even the most diehard like Star Wars fan, but I don't think you need to be. Bosco, thank you so much. I like hearing the positive, even if I may not always agree, but I never hate those that enjoy a show. Star Wars will never die. Cheers to you. Amen. Why can't everybody share that same sentiment, Bosco? A freaking men. But you know what? It doesn't make money to tell people enjoy what you love and, leave it at that. No one profits off of that. Unfortunately, we're here on the internet where it makes money to make fun of other people or ruin other people's day and whatnot. That's what's profitable, unfortunately, on YouTube. Drama, negativity, all that good stuff. So, that's the crux of it all. Because I always say, I try to stay grounded and truly believe in my heart that the way we treat each other on the internet is not reflective of how we would be if we were all face to face together in the same room, which, shout out to the Ray side. She popped into our stream, the other week, and I like fangirled over her, but you should all go check her out. Her channel is the Ray, R-A-E side. I saw a short from her, and she said it perfectly. She was like, all of the tension and angst and animosity on the internet is left at the door as soon as you like step into a Star Wars celebration and get everybody in that room. And everybody, like, there's freaking thousands of fans there, and everybody probably has different opinions and different likes different things, but the energy is just peak. It's amazing because you can just flourish and enjoy it and share your fandom together in person, and there's something electric about that. The human connection, just being surrounded by other people, you know, it's so much easier to talk trash to someone anonymous on the internet when you don't even show your own face or have, like, you know, if you're anonymous too, like, it's always the ones who don't show their face on the internet or have like a fake profile picture, that, which is fine, by the way. People deserve anonymity if that's what they want, but all I'm saying is it, I think, encouraged people. You can get away with being harsher than you would if you were to see somebody face to face, a fellow fan. Danny, thank you again, member, for 30 freaking months. Holy shnikes. We need to start coming up with some more emojis for you guys to use to unlock. All the myths and religious stories have several variations. Star Wars is a mythos, and there should be varying representations of the lore because that's how myths survive for thousands of years. Amen. Thank you so much for pointing that out. That's such a good... That's so true. That's actually such an incredible point. Yeah, that's where I stand about it. But I know I'm biased, so... And I also don't know shiz about the first thing when it comes to producing, running a major IP. So I'm not the best person to ask when it comes to... I'm like, I don't know. I can barely edit a YouTube video. I should not be making the call of who should be controlling the creative side of Disney. That is not my business. Shout out to me for being me. I'm awesome. You are. If you're here, you're awesome. Are you going to Celebration in Japan? Oh, are you going to go as Padme? I don't know, y'all, because I'm broke. I am so broke, and cosplay is expensive. Lowdown. Hello there. What is up? Hello, hello. But yes, I would like to cosplay, but sadly the truth of it is I'm broke. If those keyboard warriors were in person, they'd be hiding behind a rock. Exactly, Alice. People only have confidence online, but they'd never be confident enough to be hateful in person. So true. So freaking true. And again, I know it's... there's literally nothing wrong with wanting to be anonymous because the internet does suck. It's awful. And as soon as you put yourself out there, it's like you sign away, you warrant, you welcome, you know, any criticism, you know, that's, you know, you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to it. But the people I think who dish it out the worst are the ones who don't show their face. Again, there's really nothing wrong with that. Live your life in privacy, do whatever you want, like, you deserve that. That's totally your right. But they always dish it out the worst. They're always the most hateful or first to make fun of other people or call others a fake fan. It's like, all right, take off your mask and tell that to my face, and like then I'll value your opinion. No, I value everyone's opinions are valid. I have to accept that, but you know, it's unfortunately obvious that the people who aren't putting themselves out there, who operate in anonymity, are then have that confidence, as you said, Alice, to spew the worst things that it's like, you would never say that to my face in person. I'd imagine. That's how I stay grounded when it comes to this fandom. It's like, I know however we treat each other online I just cannot believe that it's a true reflection of how we would have true discourse. Maria says, yes, I love Meg and Star Wars Santa, and I always liked Christian Harloff and John Campea because they also say, yeah, if they don't like something, kudos to you for liking it. Exactly. That's what we deserve. So just let each other enjoy and live life. Bruno de LaSalle says, Acolyte, it's not the best show ever, but the hate that it's receiving is just unbelievable. When shows like Book of Boba Fett came out, there was nowhere near this hate. Oh yeah. And it has made it incredibly hostile and difficult to have healthy discourse about this show, which it deserves because there's so much to theorize about, so much to interpret, so much to just hypothesize. Everybody has different characters that they like and theories and whatnot about this show, different ideas. We all can, I also just love that it's such an ensemble piece, this show. There's so many different characters. Like, there's something for everybody, I feel like, in this show. And unfortunately, because of the crowd that has just absolutely, you know, not given it a chance at all and will just shiz on it no matter what for all of the wrong reasons, like, unfortunately, it's become impossible for anyone to voice the slightest bit of healthy criticism. Not even just, I don't think it's a critique at all to say you don't like something, because that's natural, and that's your right. And guess what? You're not gonna freaking like everything. Even if it's Star Wars, even if it's your favorite IP in the world, you are probably not going to like everything, and that's okay. I don't like everything about Star Wars, and I don't think that's a critique. It's natural. But unfortunately, that's what's been such a shame about the experience with this show. You can't, for those who genuinely don't like it for perfectly valid, honest, genuine reasons that haven't been influenced by, like, all of that noise going on that corrupted and surrounded the hype about this show even before it freaking came out, like, I think we can all differentiate someone who genuinely doesn't like the show, and those people who are just, you know, profiting off of not liking it. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? The grifters, if you will. I don't like to use that word, just like I don't like to be referred to as a shill, you know? It's like, those words have both lost their meaning, and so I don't like to put labels on it, but that's what's been so upsetting. It's like, people can't, you deserve to be able to not like a show, but not then inherently get roped in with all of that. And that's what's been upsetting about, you know, I want people on this channel, I try to encourage an environment where you should feel free to say respectfully, that's the only condition, that you don't like something. You deserve to be able to voice that and not get immediately blasted as, well, you're toxic, well, you're a hater, well, you're a grifter. Like, that's what's been a shame, and I'm curious how we will recover from this as a fandom, as a community, because I really feel like the division surrounding this show, I don't know how to put my finger on it, but I feel like a chasm. I feel a disturbance in the force. It's like, are we gonna bounce back? I feel like we kind of were all semi-healed from the sequel. The sequel era drama of this fandom. And then here we are now. Reopened up. John Blake, thank you so very much for the super chat. Much appreciated. I saw a meme that Padme is pregnant with Jar Jar's child. Oh, sweet lord. What a plot twist that would be. Oh, sweet lord. Alright, I'm gonna try to, I know I've gone on a lot of tangents, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a speed round. I don't get upset if people order pasta at a restaurant and enjoy the cheap fake Parmesan cheese. Even when I know the better version, but good for them if you like what you like. Exactly, Alice. Toby says, I definitely don't have positive opinions on the Acolyte. It ruined so much of canon and lore that George Lucas has worked so hard to develop, but if you enjoy the show, good for you. I'm happy that you like it. Yes. I agree to disagree. Like, all that stuff about lore and canon, I don't know what it says about me that I just don't care. If that makes me fake, then frickin' Godspeed. So, but, no, all jokes aside, even if I disagree on that, you know, remark, that's totally valid. Like, and I appreciate that you have the same energy. Good for you if you like it. Eric Z says, I'm happy you have such a strong heart and don't give in to the dark side of the fandom. I try. Thank you. Charlie says, can't wait to see Kyle Katarn, Rake next, and Catherine and Tom at Celebration. It's gonna be stacked, y'all. It's gonna be so great. Bird Church says, yes, there's something for everyone. Jalen Gatton says, I don't think the Acolyte is too great, but at this point, people look and try to find something to complain about, which is tiring and annoying. You're so right, and I think you actually really nailed what I'm trying to say. It's just snowballed to the point now where if you've resolved yourself to not liking this show, that is perfectly fine. Feel free to walk away. But the people who make content about it and don't like it are now just looking. They have tunnel vision. They just have... What's the opposite of rose-colored glasses? That's what they have. Because they need to be able to continue making videos about, well, this sucked and this was awful. And, like, get your bag. Everybody has... Anyone who's making money off of YouTube, even if it's not substantial, even if it's just, you know, like, side change, side hustle, or just recreational, even if you don't care about the money, everybody deserves that. Everybody has to get their bag. As a fellow YouTuber, I cannot sit and look at someone and tell them that their channel is invalid because they're profiting off of hate, you know? It's like, I know at the end of the day, I feel bad critiquing that, and that's why I don't like to use the word grifter, because it's like, all right, have y'all seen this economy? Have y'all seen the conditions we are living in? You know, everybody has to get that bag, so I feel bad even bringing that up. But it's unfortunately true for people who don't like the show. It's like, all right, well, I have to still make a video about it. So I think it just, unfortunately, if you're resolved to not liking it, you're just gonna look for something you despise about it. I'm talking a lot of tea today, y'all. I didn't think we were gonna talk this much tea. I guess there's been so much on my mind, and I'm kind of just ready. You know, maybe it's a good thing the finale's next week. There's been a lot of division in the fandom, very palpable, and frankly, I'm honestly shocked that I didn't give up on doing reactions because of it. Shout out, I think that's largely in part due to my moderators. You guys are freaking amazing. And again, you guys like race to delete the worst comments before I even have to get there to do cleanup. And so like literally thank you so much, truly. I think that's, honestly, I owe you guys a huge part of my resilience and how I've been able to keep going. It's because you guys see the worst of it before I do, and you clear it out of there. So thank you. What are we cosplaying now? Nothing, because I'm broke. Japan is so expensive right now. Yeah, booked our hotels. And I had been hearing like, oh, Japan is surprisingly, you know, accessible and affordable for accommodations and travel and whatnot. They must have jacked up their prices right before celebration. You could dress up as someone like Barisafi, because she just has pretty normal clothes and some face paint. Yeah, I don't think I would go... Listen, y'all, I'm not anywhere near advanced enough to attempt face paint again after my Party City fiasco and my Darth Maul trial and error 5 years ago. I haven't recovered from that, so I don't think I should try. If I were to do anything crazy, I'd maybe like do some Sith makeup and wear those contact lenses all day to freak people out. But truthfully, from what I've heard, it's long days. I've never been to a celebration. Tom has, and he's expressed to me that it's a long day. You know, it's only 5 p.m. I think when the day ends, but when you get out of there, you're exhausted. And you know, he said that he like crashed at like 8 p.m. the nights that he would leave. So I think as much as I want to do cosplay, I think I also want to be comfortable and agile and not restricted by any means. I can't cosplay as one of Keanu Money's wives. Shoot. I wish I was as badass as them. Now that we know what they all looked like. When's Evil Ewok coming back? I don't know, y'all. I think Zach and I are gonna try to do some Cat and Zach shows when we can coordinate. We're both in a bad habit right now. We're always like, next week, shoot, I forgot it's Thursday. Okay, next week, following week, we keep like pushing it back. So gotta get our heads back in the game. But I'm glad to see you guys enjoyed it. I had so much fun too. It was really fun. Maybe we'll do it for like Skeleton Crew or something. The comment section under the Star Wars Instagram page is brutal. Yeah, I usually just don't look. You're speaking truth and facts. Thank you, P. Maximus. I try. But even I here on this channel always say, like, it's never my intention to influence you guys or try to change your mind. And if it ever comes across that way, that's not my hope at all. And if anything, it hurt. I feel badly if that's ever been the case, unless I've successfully convinced you to like see another side of something and be like, oh, okay, I accept that, and actually maybe you changed my mind a little bit. Like, if it was done in a healthy way, then I'm glad. But like here, that's why I'm like, I want you all to be able to voice your opinion freely and not feel like you would be labeled as this or that. You know, I feel like we don't have sides here. Like, I feel like if you're here and part of this channel and community, like, we all operate as just like, maybe this sounds cult-like. I was gonna say we all operate as one. We're all on the same like wavelength, you know, in spite of our differing opinions, because we all have mutual respect here, like in this community. So I don't know. We're not a cult, I swear. Oh, you have to get a VPN service? Yeah, I'm literally so unprepared to travel to Tokyo, you guys. Like, I am not in the headspace at all. I gotta get in it. Toby, amen. I just hate when people assume that anyone who likes the Acolyte are woke liberal snowflakes, and that anyone who doesn't like it, yes, is a racist or homophobe or conservative. Exactly, and unfortunately that's what's happened. It's become so polarized that we've lost the middle ground. So maybe Skeleton Crew will be the perfect cure for this. Listen, y'all, I'm still out here like biggest freaking denier. I'm so bad because I literally still don't believe that show is happening. You didn't hear me say that. That's okay. Listen, I've said this. I'm not gonna go on a tangent, I promise, because y'all have heard me go on this rant 50,000 times. Until I see a trailer. Well, at this rate, if it's allegedly not coming out until like December, then that means we're not getting a trailer till like November. I still just, y'all, my brain just, I have a mental blockage. I'm still in denial that the show is happening. That's not a critique at all. I just need something. Please feed me anything. Give me something to believe, and I will stop saying this. I hate it when I say it. As the words leave my mouth, I'm not happy. But I just still, but maybe, okay. I'm accepting that Skeleton Crew is happening. And if it is truly about a show of children getting lost in space with Jude Law at the helm, then maybe that'll be the perfect lightheartedness we need. The perfect lightheartedness that we need to carry us through all this and rebound from what's gone down with the discourse of this show. Eric, thank you so much. Hit that like button and give her a sub. Let's get her to 100K. Dang, y'all, we're barely almost at my 50K goal, which, if you guys have really been around for a while, you know that that's been my goal over the past, like, 3 years. But this was really the year where I truly accepted, like, okay, it might happen. And then I kind of lost track. And I was like, oh, shoot, we're 1K away. So we have to celebrate, y'all. We got to do something. But 1K, we'll see. I don't know. I'm curious because I think YouTube operates differently. Of course, the algorithm works more in your favor as you hit certain milestones. So 1K, though. It took me 5 years to get to this place. It took me more than 5 years to get to 50K. So unless I can expedite things, I'll see y'all in 2030 at this rate for our 100K celebration. Weird that she doesn't have 50K subs. Let's give her a hand. Thank you. I don't think it's weird because I didn't take YouTube that seriously for a really long time. So in terms of my growth, you know, I feel like I've gotten what I deserved because I really only treated it as, which I should also acknowledge, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm incredibly grateful because I think what are the stats of YouTube? I think it's like literally only 1% of channels on this platform are monetized, meaning you have over even like 1,000 subscribers or something like that. I forget. I think that's the threshold. I think you need to have at least 1,000 subscribers and have like a certain amount of watch hours accumulated to unlock monetization abilities. And I think that's the statistic. Maybe that's an exaggeration. It might be like only 10% of channels or something on this entire platform. So when I heard that, I was like, dang. I think I was at like 30K when I heard that. I was like, shoot. Even if we capped out here, like I cannot believe that that's the case, but I'm still like incredibly grateful. Like, holy smokes. I did not realize like that was the statistics. And it just goes to show how many people freaking have channels on this platform, which I think freaking everybody should. This is a great space to just do whatever the frick you want and find people who mesh with you. So, that said, I don't want it to sound like I'm poo-pooing at all if you're to anyone who's like my size or smaller. I'm trying to say I deserve the way my growth has gone because I really didn't take YouTube seriously for the first few years. And if you guys were around at the beginning, you can attest to that. I would take like month-long breaks, just disappear. It would take like forever between videos, and then sometimes I'd literally would take like 3-month-long hiatuses. You know, last year, unfortunately, with the strike, we had to peace out for like 7 months, half the year. And in spite of trying to pivot my content to adapt to the times, I just didn't. Granted, I was planning my wedding, so I'll give myself the break there. It was kind of the perfect time for the industry to shut down, and then unfortunately, by transitive property, you know, my channel had to be put on pause with it, but it kind of worked out perfectly because I got married, and then like 2 weeks later, the strike got lifted, y'all. So I was like, all right, at least my wedding happened. The biggest stressor of planning was over. And then I could get right back into the swing of making videos. But for a long time, literally until this year, this was the first year, y'all, that I like sat down, New Year's resolution with the mindset of like, we will hit 50K and I will take this channel more seriously, and try to be more consistent and really treat it as if like what I want it to be. Like, I want this to be like a full-time job. And it's certainly, I'm grateful to be able to have the ability to make that investment of time and not necessarily get that's what's, you know, I believe, I guess, that only like 10% of channels are monetizable because the amount of time that you can put into a video versus the return on the investment of your time is not always the best, y'all. My members have heard me rant about this, because it can definitely be disheartening to spend days, literally days, editing videos that then don't even break like 1K views in the first 24 hours. It's like, I just spent my week doing this, and what am I doing it for, you know? So, but this is the first true year that I'm trying to take things more seriously here, so, I'm grateful that we're finally hitting my 50K milestone that I've like had on my horizon for like so long. If you do have a costume, get a hotel near the convention. Yes, back to the subject of celebration. We did. I don't think anyone I'm gonna be with, I don't think I'm gonna fully do a costume. I might buy some stuff from like her universe. I think that's Ashley Eckstein's company. She has like all this amazing like fashion that is inspired by like, you know, famous IPs like Star Wars or Star Trek, literally everything. I actually was like on the website today doing a quick browse, and I didn't realize how many IPs they like licensed inspired clothing they do. There's literally something for every nerdy gal. There's something on that website. So perhaps I'll do something from there. Nerd Chronic, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, thanks for popping in. Almost there. You'll definitely be hitting it. Thank you. And guys, stay tuned because I finally became an adult and checked my messages, and Nerd Chronic, who you should all go and subscribe to, is like literally the most phenomenal interviewer. Stay tuned, y'all, because we did a little podcast episode interview. He knew more about my channel history, y'all, than I did. It was so amazing, so much freaking fun, and it was just like a great way to review like the history of this channel. Speaking of this tangent that I'm going on, So stay tuned for that, y'all. I'll definitely be plastering it everywhere and spamming you guys when that comes out. But go subscribe to Nerd Chronic up here. Definitely go and check them out and check out some of, you'll recognize for sure some of the other reactors that they've collaborated with as well. You could just dress up as Frodo and go and say, I thought this was Mordor for real. Listen, I'm short enough that I could pull off like a Hobbit cosplay. Unfortunately, that would be the wrong place, wrong time. Bob of the Old Ways says, yes, I treat my channel as a hobby. Yeah, the return on investment of time to make videos isn't worth my while to make it more than that. No, it's literally incredibly, it is taxing and it is an uphill battle, but my goal is to finally get over that peak and really take this channel more seriously. So I'm glad to see that we're finally gonna be at that milestone, y'all. How long have you been a Star Wars fan? Since I was like child, y'all. Let's see, Revenge of the Sith came out when I was 9, I think, but I was watching them all long before that. But yes, childhood, really. There I was as a 9-year-old sobbing over Hayden Christensen. Oh, maybe we need more YouTube accounts. It's easier to watch more at the same time. LOL, wink, wink. Like, if y'all wanted me to make a second channel, is that what you're saying? I've thought about it, Alice. Not gonna lie. Like, if I made a separate channel dedicated to just gaming streams, or separate channel dedicated to just, like, vlogs. Which I don't think you guys would necessarily want to see. But like when I've always freaking been a YouTube, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know how to, I've literally always watched YouTube. Like I've been obsessed with this website since I was like 12 years old. The amount of hours I've clocked watching YouTube videos, I don't even want to know. But when I grew up on YouTube, you know, the content I always used to watch was vlogs or day in my life or what I eat a day or makeup tutorials, you know, stuff like that. And I still watch that stuff, I guess, not always, but still some of it. That's the type of content I always used to freaking watch. So I never envisioned that if I ever had a channel of my own, I'd be here making nerd content. But I've contemplated if y'all would be interested in multiple channels, if you guys actually cared about what I do in my daily life. That's the problem, though. I've thought about doing vlogs. I actually have a vlog. Maybe I'll freaking just post that today for fun, because I've had it just sitting around doing nothing, collecting dust from when Tom and I went to Las Vegas for the first time. And we vlogged it for fun. And I actually feel it's so fun, y'all. It was fun to edit. But I was like, is anyone even going to watch this? But let me know if there is a demand for more vlogs or a separate channel. Sweet Lord, y'all, I barely just got serious about this channel, so that might be bold of me to be like, oh, me creating a new one. I was 8 when Revenge of the Sith came out. Okay, John Blake, we are in the same generation. Oh, not you, Kat. Okay, good. I was gonna say, I don't know if I could keep up multiple channels. The first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters was Phantom Menace. Finally got to see that for the first time in theaters myself this year, thank God. Danny, thank you so much again for the super chat. We need a Catherine LaSalle music reaction channel. True, that's another good point. Here's the thing, though. How do the music reactors get away? That's so much more blatant copyright, I feel like. Yeah, me as a movie and television reaction channel, but like I've learned the ropes of what you can get away with showing, and you know, I've definitely learned from like some videos that I've gotten that have just been like blocked or like taken down or whatnot. It's like, okay, you learn the ropes of what you can get away with showing, but I feel like with movies, it's easier because I can control the volume a little bit more to try to like, all right, cut away, or like I can choose where to cut. if there's like, you know, a scene where the music would crescendo, or like where all the copyrighted material would really get flagged, like I feel like I can more easily manipulate my film and television reactions than music. How do music reactors? They just play the full song. They just play the song. Yes, Nerd Chronic says music reaction is a whole different beast. The usual practice is just a lot of pausing and talking. Yes, I think that's what I've observed. But Danny, you're not the first person to ask for music reactions, and I do think it would be fun because that's Tom and I love music reactions. I talked about this with Nerd Chronic in our interview discussion, but one of my like favorite reactors is Alex Hefner, and he has like his movie reaction channel and his music reactions, and I just love his stuff. But we like his reactions because we're both Tom and I are both big metal heads, and like I don't think he was a fan of metal music originally. He definitely is now because he's done so many reactions to it, I think. But it's been fun to like watch his reactions listening to heavy metal for the first time or stuff like that, or like listening to Falling in Reverse for the first time, I think is like a big one that I remember from him. And like we love those. So I would love to do music reactions, or like when my favorite artists drop some more songs or stuff like that, like especially heavy metal reactions, I feel like could be entertaining as a metalhead, but I just don't know how to get around. I don't know how to, I guess you're right, Nerd Chronic. You got to like pause and maybe not share the full song necessarily. But it's also very cool, like, because for Alex Hefner's channel, he'll react to, you know, he's reacted to Falling in Reverse, which is a metal band, if you guys don't know. And the lead singer has, like, watched back his reactions. Or, for example, Electric Callboy, they are, like, a German-based heavy metal slash rave. I don't even know how you would classify their music. They are like all sorts of genres conglomerate into one, but like they just released a new song collaborating with Baby Metal, who are like a I don't know if you could classify them as K-pop, K-metal, but it was like a big collab, and it like went viral in the metal community, and they like just did this whole video, the artists, the musicians, the band reacting to people's reactions. So like that's super cool in that realm of YouTube, to then like see the artists sharing their reactions to people listening to their music. So yeah, it's a super cool space. Maybe I would create a second, perhaps. I gotta buckle down and get serious about this channel, y'all, before I consider doing a second. But I've definitely gotten requests to do music reactions in the past, but I feel like it would just be so random on here. So if I were to do that, I might create a second channel, but I would try to integrate my own, because you guys know I like to sing and do my own covers and stuff. And it kind of, I started to do it a little bit. If my mom were here right now, she'd tell me to keep doing it because she's my biggest fan. But, you know, I started doing a little bit, like releasing some just YouTube shorts of me just singing for like a minute or whatever, little mini covers and whatnot. And it feels so random to do it on this channel. But if I did start like a music reaction channel, that would probably be a much more appropriate place to like do it. I need to get back into it and just not worry about that, whether it's fitting for this channel necessarily or not, because it's still part of me and my brand. But that would certainly be a more appropriate place to put it, probably. Where am I? I've so lost track of the chat, y'all. Since she was a youngling. Yes, Toby Parker. That's what I should start saying when people ask how long I've been a Star Wars fan. Since I was a youngling. John Blake, thank you so much. Oh my god, I'm fangirling. I would slaughter younglings to see Bad Omens and Deftones, also planning to see Korn and Spirit Box in October. Y'all, John, you just unleashed. Stop. What's funny is I used to be closeted about my nerdy side, y'all, about Star Wars, my Star Wars fan side. I'm still a little bit closeted about my metalhead side, so just because I'm not like the most, I don't think you would look at me and assume I listen to that stuff. And I used to not, like, I literally used to be of the ilk of people who listened to heavy metal and would complain like, my ears are bleeding, which I know is the case still for many people. So I would never try to convince anyone here to like, go listen to metal, it's amazing, because I know a lot of people do not like it. And that's why I'm embarrassed to say sometimes, I guess, that I listen to it, but it's literally all I listen to now, guys. Tom has corrupted me. Anyway, Bad Omens, frick yes. Part of the Vegas vlog that we did, we literally went to Las Vegas to see Bring Me the Horizon, but Spirit Box opened for them, and we love them, and they were so freaking good live. They were so good. But yes, I want to see Bad Omens so badly. Funny story, when we were there in Las Vegas. So if you are a heavy metal fan, you might be familiar with the Sick New World Festival, which was hosted in Las Vegas this year. It's just a huge metal festival, day long, of like just a bunch of bands. Tom and I were gonna go, and the tickets, y'all, were so freaking expensive. It was like $400+ for one ticket. We were like, there's no way we can justify this for only like, yeah, you get to see like all your favorite bands in one day, but for like to be kind of basically like stuck in the mosh pit on the festival grounds in the hot Vegas heat, we were like, all right, I don't think we can do this. We might not be cut out for this. So we didn't go to that, but they were doing side shows. Certain bands did performances separately at different venues, leading up to the main festival day. So Bring Me the Horizon was one of the bands, and they did a side concert with Spirit Box. That's why we went to Vegas. But while we were there, the day after that concert, we had a free day to ourselves. So we were out on the strip trying to get breakfast somewhere. And we were taking cover because it had rained, y'all. I'm gonna post this vlog today. I'm gonna do it, because now you guys will know it's not out of context. I just haven't posted it yet, because I was like, this is gonna just be so random. So unrelated to anything else. So weird. But now you guys will see it coming, so please go watch it when I post it. But you will see in the vlog that it freaking rained, which I didn't think happens in Las Vegas. Anyway, we were taking shelter, waiting to go in to get brunch at this very popular place on the strip. And while we were waiting, I was just people watching, just looking out. We were right across the street from like Caesar's Palace, and like the Bellagio fountains and whatnot. So I was just like out looking at the fountains and everything. And I kid you not, and if Tom were here, he would attest to this. The two guitarists of Bad Omens walked down the sidewalk, and I probably looked like such an effing creep because I recognized him immediately. Nick with the long hair. I recognized him immediately. I was like, oh frick, that's Bad Omens. But I stared a little bit too long, y'all, and I think he looked over at me. He could feel me freaking staring, and I still stared because I was like, literally no freaking way. And I said that to myself. I was like, no fucking way. Pardon my French. And he totally saw me like standing there like a deer in headlights, brain blasted, mouthing no effing way to myself as they walked past. And I tried to flag down Tom. I was like, gosh, Bad Omens. We just saw 50% of Bad Omens. So yeah, that's for John Blake. That was such a long-winded story, but thank you for that super chat. Glad to see that you are a fellow Bad Omens fan. My new obsession is Sleep Token, y'all. I would do anything to see them live. That's what I was so salty. That's the main band they were one of the bands at the Sick New World Festival, so they were one of the main reasons. Literally everyone that we listened to is there. Slipknot, I think, yeah, they were one of the headliners, I think. Were they? Maybe. I think they were. Motionless in White. Bad Omens, Bring Me the Horizon, Spirit Box, Baby Metal. Everyone we freaking listened to. Oh my god. Oh my god. What? Tom's gonna be so salty that I'm forgetting their name. Knocked Loose. Knocked Loose was there. Literally everyone we listened to. And Sleep Token. And that they were the main ones I wanted to go see. I was like, oh my god. I was so salty when we decided on not getting the tickets because they were freaking $500, y'all. But it worked out because they put Sleep Token at the midnight slot. They had them closing the night. And I probably would not have survived that long. So I was like, all right, it's probably worked out for the best. I'd rather just go to all of these, you know, bands' individual concerts and enjoy it, not in the Vegas heat, stuck in mosh pits of like thousands of people. So, sorry. And if I were to start, this is a precursor, if I ever did start a second music channel, that's what it would be about. Sleep Token tickets sold out like crazy, I know. I think my chances of ever going to see them are probably squandered. I even looked, because I have a sibling who lives in Europe and they're about to start their European leg of their tour. They just wrapped up in the United States, and unfortunately, like, because they were performing in Vegas, they didn't come anywhere near Los Angeles. The only other closest place was like Arizona, I think. And I honestly contemplated, I was like, I'm gonna just take a bus to Arizona to go see Sleep Token. But sadly I didn't do that. But I contemplated going because I saw that they're doing their European tour, and they're in the city where my sibling lives. And I low-key contemplated going to that one, but I could not justify that. But it sold out. Even if I wanted to go, even if I was serious about it, couldn't have. Sold the frick out. Baby Metal are Japanese. Love them. Yup. Definitely gonna be listening to a lot of them before we go to Tokyo. All right, I will end my music tangent here, y'all. Quickly checking my text message because it appears to be something business related. Oh, what? Okay. Sorry. Actually something super exciting, y'all. I can't share too much about it yet. I don't know how much I can share yet, but I'm helping on the production side with an independent film that is starring has some folks starring in it that you guys will know. I'm so excited. I'm sure I'll eventually be able to tell y'all. But yeah, I'm excited. Quick little tease. It's also fun because you guys know I want to do acting, but I'm also learning a lot more about the production side of things behind the scenes, and it's actually quite fun to see all the work that goes into even just like an independent short film. You know, as you guys know, the film that I did that's out on Amazon, to see how much goes even into just that. The amount of work and people and different people with different specialties, so many talented folks. It's like, that's why even if I have criticisms about, you know, Star Wars shows or Disney Plus or whatever, it's like I still have a newfound appreciation and acknowledgement for just the amount of sheer work and hours and time and blood, sweat, and tears that everybody involved puts into that. So it's like, I can have respect for that at the end of the day, which I know Alex and Zach roast me for that all the time, because I'll never be truly, you know, objective if I'm trying to rate a show, because I'm always like, well, at least they tried really hard. Cats joining Skeleton Crew. Y'all, could you imagine? Could you freaking imagine if all this time I've been out here as a freaking naysayer, like, this show doesn't exist, it's not happening, I need proof, going on all my Skeleton Crew fueled rants, and then if I were secretly in it, that would be the biggest bait and switch of all time. All right. Let me get back. I've neglected the chat for quite a bit here. Have you listened to Samuel Kim's Star Wars music? Oh yeah, he's so freaking good. Literally, I think I've shared this forever ago, but one of the preparation tactics I did to like get my head in the game, get excited, get pumped. Prior to my one day of shooting on Shards of the Past, like I just listened to his stuff nonstop all that whole week to just get, particularly like his sadder renditions of like Anakin's dark deeds and stuff like that, just absolutely heart-wrenching. So yes, I'm definitely very acquainted with Samuel Kim's music. It was my hype mechanism before before we filmed that. Oh, check out Rammstein. Oh, you know we know Rammstein in this household, Stanley. That's one of Tom's favorites. One of Tom's favorites. Have you seen them in? Oh yeah, Galactic Empire. No, I've never seen them live, but they're amazing as well. They're so good as well. Gonna go get some dinner, but have a good rest of your evening, Kat. Much love. Thank you, John Blake. Thank you so much for your super chat, my friend. And apologies that I fangirled a little bit about... I'm just happy to hear that there are fellow metalheads here. Thank y'all. Thank you, John, for being here. Have a great rest of your evening. All right, stay tuned, y'all. Yes, I will post that Vegas vlog tonight. Charlie says the last time I was in Vegas was 2005. It's been way too long. Need to go back. I stayed at the Luxor. Stop. You'll see in my vlog, but a little unhinged obsession that I had as a child was with Chris Angel's Mind Freak, y'all. And at the time, he was like doing a residency, I think, at the Luxor, or he at least like lived there. He lived at the Luxor Hotel, which is essentially every major hotel on the Las Vegas Strip, which is the main kind of downtown area where all the action is, all the casinos and whatnot. Every major hotel there is seemingly modeled after like a different famous country or city in the world. So there's like, you know, Paris, there's the Venetian, there's New York, and there's the Luxor, which is just a giant pyramid with like Sphinx in the front. But that's where Chris Angel lived, so you know I was freaking fangirling when we finally went to Las Vegas and I got to see it in the flesh. You'll see. In fact, nah, I won't post it right now. I have to still make the thumbnail for it, so after we wrap up this stream, which maybe we'll go for another 20 minutes or so. I've covered so many more topics tonight than I thought I was going to. This has kind of spiraled into a typical cat stream where we start off on track and then descend into other things. Descend into other unrelated topics. Best of the best is Nightwish, and they have the biggest army for reactions. Oh, okay. Maybe I've heard of them. Get ChatGPT to make the thumbnail. Never! I do have to step up my thumbnail games, y'all. I feel like I don't know, I've experimented a lot with them. Oh yeah, I think I recognize who they are. I've experimented with them a lot, but I feel like I still have to crack the code there. Darnock says, so Soul is guilty. Guilty of what? That's what's so tough. That's what's so nuanced about this. It would be so much easier if you learned from this episode, like, Soul's just flat out evil. Or Soul's just extremely selfish and he's a bad person. It would almost be easier to swallow that pill because it makes it so much more black and white versus it's way more nuanced than that. And this episode especially has been the most interesting, sparking, I think, the most discourse and differing opinions. You know, it's funny to see where people stand with Soul. People like going to town to defend him. People, you know, having different opinions and whatnot, different, you know, a different lens after all of that. But it would be harder almost if it was just a blanket like reveal, like, oh, he's just corrupt at his core. He's just pure evil. It makes it so much harder that you still love him. I'm still trying to find the love for him. No, it is still there because they've made, like, he's still, the consistency of his character is that he has this huge heart and you just cannot help but love him and want to root for him and feel for him. And that makes it all the more difficult when you see that selfishness come through and just that blind desire to, finally have his own Padawan that kind of clouded the rest of his judgment and led to the spiral, all that downfall. It would be easier if yeah, maybe it would be harder to accept after the way they've built him up. Like, oh my god, he's pure evil, but it would almost be easier to accept, his actions and the choice that he had to make if that were the case. So it's tough. If somebody burst into smoke before me, I'd be so freaked out too. Right? I agree entirely. I can't judge him for, slaying Mother Anastasia because I don't think he even entirely knew what he was doing on his own. I think it was a moment of panic and confusion and just sheer curiosity and fear, genuinely having no clue what the frick was going on. I didn't either. So at the time he did what he thought, what he only knew he could do, just whip out your lightsaber, in curiosity. I don't think he knew at all what he was doing or had that intention by any means. So I don't fault him for that. I think I'm more so, I can't stop fixating on the fact that he let himself be a little bit blinded by his desires, clouded by just this undying wish to have a Padawan of his own, and then as soon as he sees Osha, suddenly, that desire shoots up immediately, and he's like, oh, I feel this. It made me really question, because this entire show has really done a good job of building the mutual value that Sol and Osha have towards one another, that shared connection in history, and you can tell she feels it for him, this admiration, this, I think she still seeks a lot of validation from him and really still respects him and what he has to say. Same with him and him towards Osha, like, he went to town, went to battle to defend her and her integrity. People were making the comparisons, the juxtaposition of Jecki when she's learning this history from Sol and she proposes to him the idea, like, do you think May could have survived? And he immediately shuts that down. Versus fast forward 30 minutes later when they, recover Osha and she goes, May is alive. He's immediately like, yes, I believe. He has no doubts about it as soon as they're reconnected. So I think that's what was the hardest part of this episode for me, questioning the foundations of that connection and the fact that it originated from like a selfish place of longing from Sol, of he had this void he wanted to fill and Osha fit it to the point that you can't even necessarily, I couldn't even fully trust or believe how genuine he was when he says to Indara, I feel this connection to Osha. Not even Indara believed that. She calls him out and was like, don't try to manifest that. Don't force that upon her just because you have this unwavering need for a Padawan. It begs the question, does he really have a connection to her as strong as I felt like they had? Or could she have been anyone? Like, is it truly Osha and Sol who are that deeply connected? Or could she have been any child that he saw in a seemingly situation of distress and intervened? Does it truly boil down to Sol and Osha have this innate connection and that's why they have a great relationship founded on a lie, obviously? Or was he just so desperate? And I hate to use that word desperate, but that's what's been the hardest part of swallowing this episode for me, like accepting that relationship was founded on that. And then yeah, I don't know, that's what's been so hard. But I don't blame him for having acting instinctually, you know, fight or flight moment, seeing the witches go do their thing. I had no idea what the frick they were doing either, so I can't blame him for immediately assuming that they could be in danger and feeling like he had to intervene. In his defense, Anastasia, of all people, I questioned her intention in that moment. What motivated her, other than sheer panic, I guess, to do that, knowing she had to have known that it would have freaked him out and that he would have acted on it. So I questioned her judgment in that situation too. So yeah, there were a lot of factors. And yeah, I don't, you know, that choice at the end, it's a terrible, horrific choice that he had to make. And the consolation is, you know, he's been living with this. So we'll see how May takes this going forward. Let me hear what you guys have to say. I'd say it was everyone's fault, says Lord Val. Excuse me. Yes, I think everybody had a little part to play in all of this, except for Indara. I can't even fault her for that, because in episode 3, when they kind of just mosey on in there, and you've only gotten the full episode from the perspective of the Coven up until that point, after the Jedi infiltrate and crash the Ascension party, you know, you get bad feelings towards all of them, but Indara is leading the pack there, and you can't help but maybe centralize or focus some of your, like, just confusion of, like, why the frick are y'all just sauntering on in here like you own the place? You are literally, like, invading right now. Like, that's what's happening. And then come this episode, you realize, like, if they had just freaking listened to her, none of this would have happened. So I don't know. Sorry for that voice crack right there. Am I 15 years old? I think she still had the best intentions of everybody, but it ultimately came down to her. She made the ultimate tough choice of, we have to conceal the truth. You know, I think everybody else there would have been taking a vote. I think everybody else probably would have frickin' preferred Torben, Sol, Kelnaka to come clean and get this off of their chests. And had they done that, I don't think Torben would have taken his vow of silence. Kelnaka might not have all these lingering fixations and obsessions and been driven to the brink of, you know, literally driven to exile, you know. And Sol had to then put on the brave face and live every day training Osha, having that cruel truth haunting him. And all that boiled back down to Indara making the final, having the voice of authority there, making that decision for all of them, giving them all no choice essentially but to have to then bury their heads and live with this. So she kind of had, I think, the best intentions out of everybody, but she left them no choice when I think if you had put it up to a vote, I think Sol, Torben, and Kelnaka all would have preferred to come clean and confess the truth to the council. In spite of whatever the repercussions might have been, I think they would have had a cleaner conscience, of course. Toby Parker says, I think Sol's actor has impressed me the most. This is his first English-speaking role, and he plays this character so well, with so much passion. He literally learned English just recently. Yeah, and that's what's astounding. But I think his performance has been so amazing. You know, it's not his, like, oh, his English is amazing that I'm impressed with. Of course, that's an incredible feat that he learned a whole new language to play this role and has delivered it and executed it so convincingly and perfectly. But it's his emotions, which, you know, transcend any language barrier, that I think, whether he was speaking English or not, you could substitute any language in his performance and it would still hit, because he brings all of himself to it, all of his, everything he feels, we feel, and you can't help but empathize with him. I think that's what's been so strong. He really transcended, of course, that language barrier, but he could be speaking an entirely different language and you'd still feel so strongly, so deeply for his character. Sol and Torben are not evil, they just let their emotions out of control. That's always been the problem with the Jedi. They're not bad or strict, but they have their rules that they need to follow. I agree, Randy, and I think they were enablers in that moment. You know, Torben, they both needed something from each other. You know, Torben wanting to leave, Soul wanting to leave with Osha, or, you know, if not both the twins. And so they kind of, I think, were not the best two to proceed in that situation. I think Indara should have perhaps gone instead of Soul, knowing that he desperately wanted to walk out of there with the twins. So they were a little bit, probably not the best tag team to go and try to do some damage control. And what if Mother Coral made Soul kill Mother Anasea? Like, if she'd possessed him because she was angry with Osha? Ooh, I feel like if that were the case, I would have hoped they'd make that more clear. But, I mean, Soul did seem extremely confused by everything that happened. Like, that moment just so reminded me of... I keep freaking referencing this movie after I did my Deadpool and Logan reactions, rather, on the channel, but I love the freaking movie X-Men Origins Wolverine, particularly a main reason being that will.i.am of the Black Eyed Peas is in that film, and I feel like he should have had more acting roles. I freaking loved him in that movie. I thought he was amazing, and his character was so cool, but he goes out, spoiler alert, in one of the most wild and bizarre ways, because he can transport, he can teleport, and so it reminded me, you know, Mother Anasea doing some sort of, it looked like she was trying to pull like a endgame or teleport or do something to protect herself and May to get them perhaps out of that situation. And so as Soul reaches in mid teleportation or whatever she's doing, you know, and then snaps her out of it by killing her, it reminded me so much of this scene in X-Men Origins when will.i.am's character is mid teleportation and Liev Schreiber's character, the bad guy, tracks kind of like assumes where he is and reaches out and grabs his spinal column midway through. Oh god, it's so, I can't even talk about it. If you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain if not. But it was an epic way to go out. The Wookiee did nothing wrong. Agreed, Darnock. Kilnaka was probably the most innocent one there. Other than, of course, he was possessed, but none of that was on his own accord. I don't blame Soul for killing Anasea. He was absolutely horrified at the black demon that she was turning into and had no idea what was going to happen. It was out of pure instinct. Like, agreed. I think all of our confusion in that moment, like, totally relates to probably how Soul was feeling. Okay. I lost track of the chat. I hate when it does that. It refreshes as I'm like mid-scroll. I can understand Soul's confusion of thinking May was Osha in that moment. Right, he had only known them for like 24 hours, if that, so I don't blame him for mistaking them. Alice argues that he didn't have to kill her, though. He could have stepped back. She was unarmed. But he didn't know that. They knew from experience that she overtook Torben's mind, so can't blame him for assuming what other possession she might have been enacting here, or something worse. I guess we'll just find out everything next week. Yeah, for real, Charlie. We won't have to guess for much longer. Epic Dude says Mother Anasea seemed like a great leader who actually cares for and protects her people. Yeah, it's kind of a shame she went out the way she did. It's a shame because she of all people would have wanted to avoid all of this. I think Soul thought that Anasea was going to perhaps kill May, who he was mistaking for Osha, and he wanted to protect her. She did start to disintegrate as well, right? Yeah. No, I think it was left... I think all of that was left to be intentionally ambiguous and mysterious and slightly terrifying, to the point that we, as the audience, were as equally confused as Soul was, and really just had no idea what the frick was going on and only assumed the worst. Like, yeah, look at all of us assuming the worst. Like, was she gonna kill May? Like, what was she doing? Was it an offensive or defensive move? Like, versus, who knows? I don't know that she would have killed her at all. Perhaps she was just trying to teleport them out of there or something. Yeah, agreed, Alex. Alice, rather. She knew that things were escalating and she wanted to get her out of there. Toby says, I think it was mainly Saul's fault. His emotional attachment to Osha caused all of this. Stanley says Anastasia's mind tricks on Torben started the falling dominoes. You know what? You're right. That was kind of like the first blow of animosity and kind of sinister intentions that would have set off the Jedi to then question, like, all right, what are these women capable of? Blame is to be spread to many. Agreed. Torben and Saul went in an un-Jedi-like fashion, the same as Mace did, going to Sheev. Yeah, they really, the whole time, Jedi intervened and kind of just marched on in there like they owned the place. The fact that they spliced the controls in the first place to infiltrate the Ascension and break up the party was so sus. I'm surprised, like, the Coven, frankly, didn't do more to ward them away or defend themselves and really make it known, like, what the frick are y'all doing? Because they just literally just broke on in. Oh god. I lost track of the chat. Okay. Kilnaka is low-key cute. He is! Poor guy. So sad. It was a heat of the moment instinct reaction. I don't think he realized what he was doing until it was too late. Yeah. Maybe the only reason the girls are still alive is because Mother Coral is still alive. I know. What happened to her? Because I'm trying... I really haven't theorized too much about her because I kind of didn't think that she would necessarily come back to haunt anyone or come back to be involved in the current events now, especially after they established Chimere as the seemingly, you know, master here, the threat, or at least May's master. I think he still has a larger master at play. But after, you know, the stranger was revealed to be Chimere, I kind of stopped dwelling on any theories about Coral because I just personally don't see her... It would be too much of, like, in my opinion, I don't see her necessarily relating to the current storyline as it is, as it's playing out, because why would she not have just revealed herself? It's clear, it became abundantly clear that, especially after you learn that she carried, you know, she was the surrogate for Osha and May and carried them and loved them and was ready to die for them and would have rather died than let them go to the Jedi. Like, why would she then conceal her identity from May? You know, why would she have been the master figure here controlling her? Why would she not have done everything then, had she survived, to find the girls and reunite with them? Even if she was upset with Osha for leaving, that was still her child. I wouldn't have anticipated her blaming her for that by any means or holding that against her. She was the one arguing the whole time with Anastasia. Like, children can't know what they want. She's too young to be making this decision. Like, don't let her have this freedom to choose because she doesn't know what she's thinking, you know? So I can't foresee an outcome in which she would then harbor resentment towards Osha and blame her for any of this. So I stopped dwelling on any theories about Coral necessarily coming back. But this does raise the question, you don't see her body, and she, you know, evaporated as well when they went to possess, you know, Kilnaka. You hear her voice, you know, as they reveal that he's been overtaken, but where did she necessarily go? However, if she was contributing to all of them mind controlling him, she would have died as well when all of them did. No? But then everyone else has been raising the question online, like, well, did they really die? Or did they all just kind of, like, pass the frick out? Who knows? Who freaking knows? Alright, I'm gonna do one quick last fire round of chat, and then maybe I'll wrap this up. Okay. Toby says, yeah, I don't even think it was possible for him to kill her. She was literally turning into black smoke. I know, so it was interesting. In that moment of pure instinct, I thought I could stop it. Says Lord Fal. Good quote. Is it known who Kelnaka's master was in the books? I've not even... Y'all, I'm still only on freaking Light of the Jedi. I gotta keep going. But I really freaking want to, and I think it's cool that this show has ignited some hype for the High Republic. I think I'm not the only one who's, like, very late to the game, but finally trying to get around to those books to be more in the know about this era, this generation. Birdchurch says that can't be the last time we see Coral. Maybe. Maybe not. It's forbidden for a Wookiee to use their claws, says Lord Fal. Yeah, which probably was... he at least, you know, Kelnaka at least had the solace of knowing it wasn't him. It wasn't him in his right mind. But I can imagine if you're a Jedi, to be overtaken like that, especially when you're trained to have the most, like, my mind is fortified, as Torben said, to have so much of that be part of your, essential to your training of having, you know, that strength there and your spiritual strength and whatnot and the connection to the Force and, you know, I wouldn't blame him. It's so not his fault at all, but I wouldn't be shocked if you know, if you were a Jedi to go through that and lose total control over your own mind, own autonomy, own actions after, like, a lifetime of training to be extremely fortified, you know, in your will, you know, the strength of your own mind. I can imagine that eating him up. So yeah. What if Chewie shows up? He's not gonna. I think I saw on Twitter today that he would be as old as Gungi is now. Gungi, from the Bad Batch. So yeah, he's still a little baby. He's still just doing his own thing. Magnus Motors, welcome. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chatting. Blue Winter says, I want to see what happens to May after that night. I know, maybe we'll learn how she survived in the finale. That I feel like this was the biggest loose end that they had to tie, but I think there's still a lot to question, a lot to theorize about. And maybe we won't get those answers. You know, I think so much of this show has been, they show you just enough pieces of the puzzle. They specifically curate moments and highlights and flashbacks. You know, they spotlight certain things so that you have to draw conclusions of your own and do some detective work to try to fill in the pieces and solve the mystery for yourself. So I won't be curious. I won't be surprised if they leave some things, you know, without closure like that. So you have to just settle with whatever your own theory is or your own guess. Charlie, thank you so much. Sending us out with a bang, my friend. We'll probably end it off here. Thank you so much. Just a little random thanks for everything. I know I keep repeating myself, but back in May, spending time with you and Tom was an honor. And as far as 50K, keep on doing your thing. Always stay motivated. Thank you, Charlie. I have spoken. Thank you so much, my friend. And truly, I cannot shout out you enough, and Sean and T-Money and all the mods here for everything you guys do to keep this community a safe space, keep it clean, and respectful and whatnot. I seriously cannot stress enough, y'all. The burden it lifts from me that they take on to moderate and beat me again 90% of the time. These guys beat me to the comment section to clear it out before I even get there. And I should make it known, it's not like they're censoring people. You know, they ban the truly bad stuff. You know, the truly stuff that I myself wouldn't want in our comment section here. So I feel like I make it sound like they're just out there constantly on the front lines fighting off everybody, but it's truly warranted, you know, when it's truly just bad, toxic, horrific stuff. They clear it out so that I don't have to, and it makes it so much easier for me to just do my job here. So thank you guys. You're on the front lines. Y'all are God warriors. But yeah, holy smokes, we covered a lot of topics this evening. My throat is hurting. I'm such an amateur. Here I am saying, like, I need to take this more seriously, yet I forget to even pour myself a dang glass of water before I freaking go live for 2 hours. But this was so much fun. I will probably do something similar. next week, but it might have to be like a late night thing. Because my schedule has to do with filming. I'll actually be on set starting next Wednesday. So literally perfect timing. I'll be able to get out my reaction quickly before I have a few days on set next week. So that said, I might have to do like it might be like a night owl recap of the finale, but it's been fun to go live. I should have been doing this like the entirety of the show. I guess I feel bad like streaming without Tom because he always has good thoughts too, and it's fun to share them. But I think I'll do if I do a night owl something, then that means he'd be able to be involved actually. So next week, whether it's Wednesday or Thursday, maybe even Friday, we might do a little more of a late night night owl session to recap the finale. So stay tuned, y'all. Literally, I'm gonna make dinner and I'm gonna make this thumbnail for our Vegas vlog and I'm gonna post it. Please go watch it, you guys. I try so hard not to like beg for views or anything like that, y'all, but please watch it now that you know the context so that at least some of you guys will know that it's not like the most random video I'm dropping because it has nothing to do with anything else on this channel. But please go watch it. Let me know what you think and let me know if you would like to see some more vlogs in the future. I honestly actually had a really good time making it and editing it, even though I'm such a vlog novice. But please watch it. I will drop that tonight. But thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. To those of y'all who've been here the whole time, thank you so very much. To those of you who, what's the freaking word? Super chatted. Thank you so freaking much. Literally from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. And you never ever have to feel obligated to do so, but it truly is just incredibly generous and I can never say thank you enough. And to those of you who just lingered in the whole time in the background in the shadows, but even if you don't engage in the chat and you're just a silent listener, we still love you and freaking appreciate too. You're doing the Lord's work, being here. Even if you're not interacting, you're still a valued member of this community, putting in the hours, hanging out with us, and I truly appreciate it. And yeah, I will see you guys again very, very soon. I'll see you probably next in my House of the Dragon reaction. Things are heating up over there. So I'll probably see you guys next on very late Sunday night. But until then, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Happy Friday tomorrow. If you're in Europe, you're probably asleep and it's already Friday. Or the United Kingdom, I should say. Or if you're Alice in the pure future, it's definitely already Friday, I think. So happy weekend, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Great last day of work before the weekend. And I'll see you guys again on Sunday. But thank you guys so much for watching. May the force be with you guys. Much love to you all. Thanks for hanging out with me. Oh, Vader's there. What's up? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Much love to you guys. And I will see you guys again very, very soon. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I'll see you guys again soon. Have a great night.